So this video, well, let's see what happens if I make a full-fledged rant video. Today's topic, electric vehicles. Oh yeah, we're doing it. You guys asked me to do a rant video in the comments of my first kind of reaction to a street racing documentary from 2003. I'm like, all right, honestly, why not? I've been kind of wanting to do one for a while. Let's see what happens. So in today's video, I will be gatekeeping when it comes to what I consider to be a proper automotive enthusiast, and I will be casting huge generalizations on people who don't agree with what I'm saying in this video. Let's do this. Let's hope this isn't career suicide. So, in case you're new to the channel and this is your first video, this is going to be a neat first impression to make. But hi, I am Tom the Racing Joker, the one spearheading this dumpster fire of a video. As you can see, I am a neckbeard who should have never been in charge of his personal health. I've got so much mass that if you were to shove any more EVs are gonna save the world type crap, rhetoric or whatever, verbiage, I would probably collapse into a black hole, the singularity probably being where my heart is supposed to be. If you are watching this video and you're an ordinary person who might spend their money more responsibly and are not an automotive enthusiast, you probably don't care or don't really have an opinion on this issue. But I will say, if you do, it's not really valid, it doesn't matter, no one cares, and it's not relevant. This is not really concerning you. So I'll say this right off the bat, because I'm a reasonable human being. EVs, I would say, are a neat alternative racing platform to internal combustion engine cars because of the instant torque and all that shit. But the problem is, if it weren't for world governments and their infinite short-sightedness in kind of trying to outlaw or ban internal combustion engines and making EVs mandatory, as electric vehicles take over the market, we kind of don't have a choice but to hate them because of how they're being introduced. Because according to the people in charge of the world and the people who have the most influence, it's up to people like you and me, individuals with not much sway in how the world actually works and, you know, with our limited impact on things, it's apparently up to us to save the world from the damage of big corporations and big industries. It's up to you and me to solve climate change, which I'm not denying its existence. I'm not some whack job that says that climate change isn't a thing. It most definitely is, but I'm also not saying it's my fucking responsibility to fix it. Like, what the hell am I supposed to do? Like, I can recycle and shit, and I do all the normal things that a person with 2 brain cells can do, but at the same time, I can't save the fucking world. But I digress. If EVs weren't being forced down our throats and being made to replace what we already have and what we already enjoy, we could be having awesome discussions about how they differ or are kind of like an alternative means of going fast to our cars, the same way super bikes are, sport bikes. Because that's what when you're comparing an EV to a internal combustion engine car, it's not like comparing cars to horses, it's like comparing cars to fast bikes. Because if you want to go these days, if you want to have easy, crazy fast acceleration and maybe good top speed or whatever, it would make sense to either get an EV or a fast sport bike. But here's the thing, that's all they offer. If every EV has the same power to weight ratio or whatever, they all just kind of sound the same, right? But as an automotive enthusiast, it's not just about speed and power. That's cool. Having a fast V10 or a fast supercharged V8 or, you know, just as a couple random examples, that's cool, right? For me, it's about the experience, the sensations, the senses that are stimulated. Like, I like how different, like, BMW engines and Porsche engines and classic JDM engines like 2Js and RBs, the way they deliver the power is different. You got different types of character and personality. I'm stuttering a little bit. You know, there's individuality. A lot of people say EVs have no soul, which may or may not be true, but they don't have as much individuality. They're not as special. They're not different enough. It's just, you mash it and you go. And that's not what matters. Unless if all you want to do is go fast. Yeah, then buy an EV. But that doesn't then mean, it doesn't mean that it's better. You're just after a different experience. Because like, It's like pulling up to a guy in like a 67 Corvette, like an original, and saying, haha, my 400 horsepower Subaru WRX with a big turbo is faster than your piece of junk. The dude don't care. He's got the car he wants. Like, my car ain't fast. It's got like 330 horsepower or something stock. It might have 340, 350 now. It's not that fast, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun. My point is that we don't all, as automotive enthusiasts, pick a platform for its performance potential. We pick it because of what we want and believe we can get out of it. Honda isn't really the best example because you can make Hondas pretty damn fast, but like Hondas or BMWs like mine, you buy it probably because you already know you're gonna love it and you think you're going to enjoy it, and the experience is what matters. But let's see if ordinary people can understand. This could also just really be really weird, but in simpler terms, let's say an Italian supercar like a Ferrari or a Lamborghini is like passionate sex with a beautiful exotic woman filled with emotion and connection, intimacy, feeling. And an EV is like 1800s era missionary with stern eye contact or something. And like an American muscle car is raunchy and dirty, and maybe it's like a one-night stand and it just feels naughty. This feels really cringe. And like an electric vehicle, an EV, and like, I don't know, a Tesla Plaid is premature ejaculation or something. It's like a connection. I don't know. This is getting weird. My point is that if you want to engage all of your senses, have theater and drama, soul and individuality, EVs just aren't the way to go. Like, if you went to Phantom of the Opera, you don't want the one playing Christine to be a fucking mute. You want her to be a really good singer. I feel like it's all about what you're going for. Like, EVs are a cool technology. What they have to offer is pretty, significant. But they don't have enough going for them to replace what we have and what we love. And some people take it upon themselves to go, well, I like EVs, and what you like is being outlawed, so I'm gonna make fun of you for it and feel better about myself for some reason, and it's just bizarre. That's not. I don't know why people have that take. It's weird. I've come to understand that there's a lot of really shitty people in the EV and especially the Tesla communities that go out of their way to act like they're better for some reason. But like I said before, comparing EVs to internal combustion engine cars as an enthusiast is pointless. They're two different approaches to something that is car-shaped. They are shaped like cars. They look like cars. But the technology is so different. Their purposes, their approach, their execution is so different that comparing them just doesn't make sense to me. Like, it's like comparing sport bikes to cars. You're not going for the same thing depending on which one you choose. If you're in one mood, you might want the motorcycle. If you're in another mood, you might want the fast Lamborghini or the muscle car. And then if you're in another mood, you want the EV. Like, blending them together to achieve the same goal seems unrealistic. So comparing them is also pretty unrealistic to me. And because they're being forced upon us as mandatory, like by 2035 or whatever, all sales of internal combustion engine cars will cease and will not continue for the betterment of the world. It just makes EVs less cool, easier to hate, and as a result, they cannot be good for the culture of the automotive community. They are the invaders. They're coming to take over and ruin what everyone else enjoys. I personally think that if EVs really do take over and become 100% of the scene, it will kill the hobby. I believe that. Now, here's the juicy part that I really want to rant about is, let's talk about how EVs are going to help the environment, or except that they actually aren't and they can't. Not that the people who are going to profit off of all of the mandatory EV sales want you to know that, because I'm sounding like a conspiracy theorist or something like that. But like, It just feels too short term, and I feel like people are just trying to get rich. But anyways, more importantly, even if EVs don't release pollutants out of the exhaust system, out of the tailpipe, you still have to build brand new EVs to replace the millions upon millions of already existing internal combustion engine cars, which inevitably has insane ramifications for environmental damage, pollution, all that stuff. I personally think it's more environmentally friendly to hold on to a car for longer than 3 years or whatever, keep it running, just maintain it, and not just try to buy your way into believing you're a good person helping the environment. Buying an EV to be able to claim that you are helping the environment is like going to the church and giving them money so you don't go to hell. It's so similar and so stupid. I mean, you've got to ship cars around the world. Like Jeremy Clarkson always talks about how you have to mine materials in one country, refine it in another country, then send it to Japan, assemble it, and then ship the cars to other countries to sell them. That's the same story for all cars. That green car you bought has contributed to so much pollution that it doesn't matter. You should have just kept your other car. And the other thing is, if electric vehicles are the future, and it is inevitable, and we must do it, then why aren't we working towards becoming more reliant on renewables like wind, solar, hydro, or nuclear? Nuclear is pretty cool. Why don't I hear people giving the same energy as that? Is it because it's more difficult, and that's why you don't want to fight for it in the Facebook comments or on YouTube and say, well, I think we should move to nuclear because, you know, we don't want to keep using non-renewables forever. So why are people not giving the same energy for stuff like that? I just think people go for the easy stuff. You know, it's easy to make a rule that says everyone has to buy an EV rather than put in the effort to attack the systems like industries and corporations that really contribute to global emissions. Sorry, I'm losing my voice somehow. The other thing is like stuff like fusion generators, like not fission, but fusion. Like that's a technology that I think is really cool in theory, but it's just not commercially viable. As I understand it, it takes more energy to start the reaction than the energy it generates, I think, but the potential is massive. So fingers crossed that gets figured out. The other thing we can't ignore is e-fuels, because this is a car channel, so we have to talk about e-fuels, like the kind that Porsche has been spearheading. And I've got an article here from Road and Track that I'll open that kind of explains how it works. E-fuels start with hydrogen generated from electrolysis or electrolysis. I'm not sure. I like electrolysis. That sounds more realistic. This entails basically zapping water with electricity, and they use, like, I think wind energy to do that, to keep it green, splitting the bonds, holding those H2O molecules together to emit pure hydrogen and pure oxygen. The hydrogen is captured and compressed. It's exactly the stuff you would use to power a fuel cell car like a Toyota Mirai. But now the cool thing is they also use carbon capture technology to get CO2 out of the atmosphere. They mix that in with the hydrogen, make a sort of synthetic methanol that then you can put in any internal combustion engine car. Right now, I think they've been testing it with like an octane rating of 93, but they can change the octane rating as far as I understand it, which means it can go in cars that were built 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30. It doesn't matter. It will just work. And you don't really need to change infrastructure all that much. You need to build more plants that have turbines that use renewables to use electricity to split the molecules and things like that. You still have to do the carbon capture, but building stuff like that, more of that, if it can catch on, what you can end up doing is just using e-fuels for everything, not having to build as many new cars, and it's a lot closer to emissions neutrality, at least when it comes to individuals and, you know, civilian vehicles, because we're taking CO2 out of the air and then just putting it straight back in, contributing as much. which then it just comes down to getting rid of the other contributors, because we don't contribute as much as other industries and sources. Here's why it doesn't matter, even if the whole world goes EV. Here's why it doesn't matter. I will say this: the way we make our food isn't extremely... Before I start, actually, I know that whataboutism kinds of arguments are kind of cheap and annoying, but unfortunately it's really easy to make them, and I think I've got a couple valid ones here that I think you should hear. The way we make our food is extremely unfriendly to the environment. The emissions and excessive use of antibiotics in the food industry is insane. The ramifications, especially of the overuse of antibiotics, are very serious. Investing in synthetic foods, whether it be like lab-grown meats or stuff made using plants or dead bugs or whatever you have to do, or vegan alternatives, farmed in ethical ways, could help a lot. You know, that could really help a lot in reducing global emissions, because the food industry is like one of the biggest contributors. But for some reason, people pretend to care about where their food comes from, so they don't like it when they have meat that's not from a cow or something. I'm not sure why people pretend to care about where their food comes from, because if people did care about where their food came from, then processed food would not be popular, and fast food would not be as popular as it is. So stop pretending like you care about where your chicken nuggets come from, man. Nope, not a valid mindset whatsoever. Like, I don't care where my food comes from as long as it tastes good and doesn't kill me. I don't care where it comes from, not at all. I don't need my chicken meat to actually come from a chicken. If it was grown in a lab somewhere but tastes good, is relatively healthy, and won't kill me at any faster rate than real chicken anyways, it's fine. Another thing to keep in mind, a bit more serious, or at least I can give you some real numbers, is the roads you'll be driving your brand new Tesla Plaid on. I'm really singling out Tesla. It's the only thing that ever comes to mind for me. The emissions generated from paving new roads are pretty bad. In fact, for every 2 meters of new road, you are releasing the equivalent emissions of building a brand new car. Every 2 meters of road is like building a brand new car. And in the US, we average, I would say, about 30,000 miles of new road being paved per year. So let's say that's about 48 million meters per year. Divide that by 2, if I'm doing math correctly here, that's like 24 million cars every year being built just by paving road. So maybe we need to work on improving the technology of how we pave our roads, but that might be a little bit more difficult than just saying people can't buy ICE cars anymore, so people don't want to even try. They'd rather just say, I support the EV movement, and that's all I really need to do, and now I'm part of the right side of history for some reason, when I have no idea what I'm talking about. I mean, that's a lot of pollution. 30,000 miles of new road being paved each year, when 2 meters of road is like building a new car. That's something to think about. But do you want to know why it really doesn't matter? Why you buying an EV doesn't mean jack shit? Because of two things. The rate of which we increase our global energy usage as a species, and the growth rate of the population, and also the development of poor countries. This is the good part. We are close to 8 billion people being in the world, and as more babies are made and as they grow up, their energy use increases exponentially. Not to mention the fact that technology around the world will become more advanced and more reliant on different resources, especially energy. So by having more and more kids, we dramatically, significantly, ridiculously, cosmically increase our energy use and emissions. Inevitably. Moreover, as poor countries become rich, their technology will improve too, so their potential for comfort will increase. And who doesn't want to be comfortable? They will want to be more comfortable than they have been, and they will want to have more stuff, more luxuries. Entire nations will explosively increase their emissions just with their existing populations. So their emissions and energy use to improve their standards of living will go up because they're trying to match, the standards of countries like ours, like the US or the UK, or I don't know, Singapore. I'm just naming places I've lived in. It doesn't matter. They're trying to match the rest of the world and become wealthy like the wealthy countries. I don't know why I said us. That might have been poorly phrased. Here's the other thing. If we, the wealthier countries, ask them, hey, we know you guys are starting to do well, you're starting to do better, and that's really good. Good for you. But can you only use these resources, these energy sources, to, I don't know, save the world? It's going to appear disingenuous to them that we would have the gall to ask them to not do it the way we've been doing for centuries. It will, to them, look like we're trying to keep all the comfort and luxury to ourselves and try and mitigate their efforts in being like us. And I'm going to be honest, that's not unreasonable. I'm not saying they're guaranteed to think like that. They might go, okay, yeah, we want to save the world. But at the same time, they have a right to be selfish. If they want to be more comfortable, they want to live better. Who doesn't want to improve their lives, no matter where you are? So yeah, your Tesla won't save the world if we keep breeding and if people start getting more stuff. So, and think of it like this. We're at about 0.75 on the Kardashev scale. One day, I think in like the next few hundred years is a guess that I heard someone make, we could quite literally use all of the energy the world has to offer at any given time, thanks to hitting a population of 10 billion people and constantly increasing the energy reliance of our technologies. That is pretty serious, because once you hit that limit, there's not more energy the planet has to offer. It doesn't just magically come out of nowhere. So eventually you have to go, what's the solution? Do we have to start, sterilizing ourselves, cutting our balls off? Or maybe more realistically, actually, we should research, ways to get resources from space. Try to get toxic mining away from Earth and only get our precious metals from asteroids and things like that. It's not impossible. It's not even really unrealistic. We just haven't really had a big space race in a while. So, and we don't really hear about, governments and government-sponsored organizations really spearheading really, really significant things like that. Obviously the rocket equation of adding more weight leads to more fuel cells and more fuel in rockets, and that leads to more weight and trying to... So it's obviously rockets aren't cheap, and they're annoying because it costs a lot for a very small payload, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't keep working on it, obviously. And we should talk about it too. I don't know why it doesn't get talked about more. But yeah, renewables, fusion energy, fission, nuclear, mining asteroids, alternatives to rockets to make getting into space cheaper. Those are all really, really cool things to talk about. They sound like sci-fi, but they don't have to be. It's just that we haven't taken any real steps towards that, as far as I'm aware. They just aren't as quick or immediately gratifying as being able to say, I've banned internal combustion engine cars. So now I get to immediately feel like I'm making a difference. I'm a good person. I'm good for the world. So you should vote for me because I'll keep doing shit like this. And if you collectively as a group announce that you agree with stuff like this, you also get to claim you're the good guys too. What I care about are the long-term investments with long-term benefits and ramifications. And to me, that makes much more sense if you're trying to keep the human race around for a longer period of time than the trajectory that we're going in. But politicians and stupid people focus on the short term because it garners them popularity, and it is an easy way to make yourself feel like you're a good person by pretending you're contributing to the good of humanity. It's kind of like putting a temporary flag on your Facebook profile picture to show that you are supporting some cause by dedicating basically zero energy to it. Zero effort. You may as well have done nothing. I mean, these days, if you're a vegan, you can say you're not hurting animals. which is not actually true if you know how farming some vegan products work. And these days, you can say if you buy a Tesla, then you can act like you're helping the environment, which is absolute unadulterated nonsense. Stop pretending you care if you're not going to focus on the right things to prove you care. It just feels like a popularity contest or a clout contest. So you want to save the world, but you don't want to focus on what matters. You don't want to put in any kind of energy. You don't want to try too hard. You don't want to actually figure out what could make a real difference. Well, here's some alternatives that could maybe still make a difference. Don't knock up your partner and contribute to global population growth, or just even, don't be alive, because the actual impact an individual like you or me can have, working towards the betterment of the environment or the world as a whole is so minute that your mother swallowing you when she definitely should have would have actually had a bigger impact on the health of the planet. So stop acting like pissing in the ocean is going to make waves, tsunamis. Your existence is diluted, just like your piss, by the fact that you don't matter and people just want you to think you matter, because they're trying to sell you shortcuts like buying things that are considered green and good for the environment, so you don't think about what you can actually do. You could matter, but if your approach is just, I'm just going to buy organic stuff, I'm just going to buy Teslas, I'm going to be vegan, you're not saving the world. But there you go. That was my rant video. It wasn't super well thought through. I'm sure it could generate some outrage. If you guys ask for more stuff like this, and I find more things I could say about EVs, I always like talking shit about EVs, to be perfectly honest. I will never ever really support them, thanks to how they've been introduced to the scene. And if this video garners a good amount of outrage, sure, maybe it would be fun to make another video. Because these days, apparently good publicity and bad publicity are basically the same thing. It's like that Office meme. They're the same picture. So, whatever. At the end of the day, if you want to simplify things, I just think buying an EV because you like it is fine. But if you're buying it because you want to save the environment, I think you're an idiot. And you need to really think about why you believe that and how it could possibly be true. But anyways, until next time, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you're not subscribed yet, might want to fix that. Sounds like a bit of a personal problem, but you can easily solve that by hitting the subscribe button and hit the like button too. You can improve yourself in multiple different ways. And, if you like what you've seen so far on this channel, you'll like what I've got planned. So bam! Anyways, you guys are all legendary. I appreciate all of you, even the people that might not agree with me, because if you've come here to comment, you're contributing to my standard of living. So appreciate you all the same. And honestly, have a good rest of your day. Stay legendary once again, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.